Shalom Israel. Welcome again to Watchmen of the Faith Ministries. My name is Kasada Ba. All right, I pray that everybody enjoyed themselves on the Passover as we commemorated our exodus out of Egypt and understanding the redemptive role of the Messiah dying on the cross for the nation of Israel and understanding that the Messiah is the Passover lamb. So hopefully everybody that celebrated or commemorated the Passover explained what was going on in detail on again the redemptive role of the Messiah, why the Messiah had to die for the nation of Israel, and that everything that was going on in the Old Testament was actually foreshadowing the coming of the Messiah. Again, the Messiah was the Passover lamb, and again, I pray that everybody enjoyed themselves. All right, as you explain this in details with your children, because they're the next generation and they need this information so that they can give it to their children. We have to keep this ball rolling and let not people know that we make up the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, the title of this show is called The Final Days of the Messiah. All right, and I'm going to be going to the book of Matthew, the 26th chapter, because I want to do a timeline on exactly what was happening again at the last days of the Messiah's ministry here on earth. And again, I'm going to be going to the book of Matthew, the 26th chapter, and I'm going to start with the very first verse. As it says, "And it came to pass, when the Messiah had finished all these things, he said unto his disciples, You know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified." So, first what I needed to do, because there's a lot of keys that's in verse 2, where it says 2 days, and then it says the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. We should know, with understanding the story, that the Messiah was crucified on the 14th. 2 days prior to the 14th is the 12th. So verse 2 is talking about the 12th. And again, the key to understanding why I said the 12th is because the Messiah was crucified on the 14th. He wasn't crucified on the 13th, and he wasn't crucified on the 15th. The Messiah is the sacrificial lamb, and the Messiah was crucified on the 14th. So now, again, I'm going to read verse 2 again. You know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover. So what time is it now at this present moment? It's the 12th. It's the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people into the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and consulted that they might take the Messiah by subtile and kill him. But they said, not on the feast day. When it says not on the feast day, what day are the Pharisees talking about? Now, when we get into understanding some of this history here, we know that the 14th is the day of preparation. We know that the 15th is the day that we eat the lamb along with the unleavened bread. But again, understanding history, some of us say that the 14th all the way down to the 21st, they call all of that the Passover. I don't have a problem with that. I'm going to say it again because I don't want no misunderstandings. A lot of us say, listen, from the 14th all the way to the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, we call all of that the Passover. And I don't have a problem with that as long as we're distinguishing what happens on the 14th. What happens on the 14th is when the lamb is killed. And on the 15th is when the lamb and the unleavened bread is eaten. As long as we don't understand, as long as nobody is saying that on the 15th the lamb is being killed. All right, so I just want to make sure that I brought that piece of information out. So they said not on the feast day here, so they're talking about not on the 14th. Now, when the Messiah was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came into him a woman having an alabaster box, a very precious ointment, and poured it on his head. That his head was the Messiah. So what we see that's going on now here is that the Messiah is being anointed. That's very important. And poured it on his head as he sat at meat. And when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, which is hate, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For the ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When the Messiah understood it, he said unto them, Why trouble you the woman? for she hath wrought a good work upon me. For you have the poor always with you, but me you have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. All right, and again, the Messiah died on the 14th. The Messiah gave up the Spirit at the ninth hour. The ninth hour is 3 o'clock p.m. The Messiah was placed on the cross at the third hour. The third hour is 9 o'clock a.m. All right. Verse, where we at here? Verse 14. Then one of the 12, okay, called Judas Iscariot, went into the chief priest, and the chief priest is talked about in verse 3. The chief priest, and the chief priest at this time was, the high priest at this time was called Caiaphas. So what Judas is doing now is that he's now beginning the stages of betraying the Messiah. And he said unto them, what will you give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they convened with him for 30 pieces of silver, which is less than the dowry for a virgin. The dowry for a virgin is 50 shekels of silver, and Judas sold out the Messiah for 30 pieces of silver. All right, so I just thought I'd throw in that piece of information in there. Verse 16, and from that time he sought, which is Judas Iscariot, opportunity to betray him. To him is the Messiah. Verse 17 is very, very important. This is the reason why I always say is that it's very important for us to understand the Bible from a Hebraic perspective, all right, and understand the history, because what we're dealing with now is translations, and we have to make sure now when we read the scriptures that we do the research to make sure that the translation that we're reading is correct, because the last thing that we want to do, those of us that are ministers to or of the Messiah, is that we give out right information. Okay, our life depends on this, because what we're doing now is that we're blowing the shofar. We're warning the people that troublous times are about to come, and we have to warn the people. And part of warning the people is making sure that we break down the scriptures correctly. Now, verse 17 says this now. And the first day of the feast of unleavened bread. When is the first day of the feast of unleavened bread? The first day of the feast of unleavened bread is the 15th. And the key there is unleavened bread. Unleavened bread is eaten on the 15th day of the new year, or the month, the first month of the year. And on the 15th day, unleavened bread is eaten. Unleavened bread is not eaten on the 14th. The 14th is the day of preparation. So when we read here now, in verse 17, it says, now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to the Messiah. Now, how can that be? The Messiah is the Passover lamb. The Messiah did not eat Passover with his disciples. The Messiah had a last meal, a last supper, but the Messiah did not eat the Passover with his disciples. I'm going to prove this. I'm going to read verse 17 again. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to the Messiah, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And what I found very interesting, the word prepare. When is the lamb prepared? The lamb is prepared on the 14th. And the feast of unleavened bread starts on the 15th day of the new year. And again, the Messiah did not eat the Passover with his disciples, because it tells us now, and let's go to that right quick. I'm going to go to the book of Leviticus. Let's go to the book of Leviticus. Actually, let's go to Exodus, the 12th chapter. Okay, I'm just going to read, let's see, 1 to 7. 1 to 7. I'm going to read 1 to 8. And the Messiah spoken to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt. So they was in Egypt, saying, this month is talking about the first month of the year. Okay, and that month is called Abib. Some spell it A-B-I-B, some spell it A-V-I-V, but the word Abib is talking about the barley. And the word aviv means green or tender, and again, it's pertaining to the barley. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So this is the renewed moon, or as I say, and a lot of us say who has this understanding in the scriptures, that it's the first sliver of the moon, not the astronomical moon where the moon is completely dark. Speaking to the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they should take unto them every man a lamb. So what we have important here now is that the observation of the moon, and then after the observation of the moon, on the 10th day, a lamb is selected. According to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your account for the lamb. Verse 5. Your lamb should be without blemish, and male of the first year. You should take it from the sheep or from the goats. The lamb should be a year old, no more than 2 years old. So the lamb can be a year and 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, as long as it's not 2 years. 2 years old, all right? Verse 6 is going to be very, very important. It says, and you should keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel should kill it in the evening. I just want to skip down now to I'll read verse 7. And they should take the blood and strike it on the two side posts of the upper doorposts of the house, where they should eat it. And they should eat the flesh in the night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herb they shall eat it. So verse 8 is explaining to us now, on the 15th on the 15th day, okay, of the month, the 15th day of the month, at night, you're supposed to be eating unleavened bread along with the lamb. On the 14th, okay, at even is when the lamb is supposed to be killed. And so by the 15th nighttime hours, you're supposed to be eating the lamb along with unleavened bread. So now when we go back, okay, when we go back to the book of Matthew, the 26th chapter, and we read the 17th verse, and understanding that the Messiah is that lamb, the Messiah can't eat the Passover because he is the Passover lamb, so he's not eating the Passover with his disciples. He is the Passover. All right? I hope that if anybody has any questions about anything that I said, again, just leave a comment and I can elaborate it on what I'm saying a lot more. But hopefully everybody gets the gist of what I'm saying, that the Messiah is the Passover lamb and he did not eat the Passover with his disciples. Then it says in verse 17, the latter part of it, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, the master saith, my time is at hand, I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. Again, we're talking about translations here. And again, the Messiah did not eat the Passover with his disciples. Verse 20, and when the even was come, okay, he sat down with the 12. So now, this is actually now, okay, the 13th even. 13th at evening. It's now beginning to fall into the dark time hours, because the next day starts at night. This is the 13th late in the even, or the evening. And when the even was come, he sat down with the 12, and as they did eat, he said, verily I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. And they were exceedingly sorrowful, and began every one of them to say unto him, Father, or the Messiah, is it I? And he answered and said, he that dippeth his hands with me in the dish, the same shall betray me. The Son of Man goeth as it is written of him. So it was written of the Messiah that he would die for the sins of the nation of Israel. The Messiah is the Passover lamb. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to say it again. The Messiah did not eat the Passover with his disciples. It was prophesied that the Messiah must die and take on the sins of the adulterous woman, and that adulterous woman was the nation of Israel. The Son of Man goeth as it is written of him, but woe unto him that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. And with that I say shalom.